It's finally here. October 8th has arrived, and while many will see it as just another date, you and I know the full moon tonight makes it different. This full moon is not random. Every restless night, every sudden feeling, every unexpected event today is part of a bigger plan. The energy of this moon is pushing out what can't stay and making space for what must come next. Most people will miss it. They'll scroll through their day, focus on small problems, and miss the real message. But the awakened feel the shift. The full moon is pointing to what matters most. So stay with me, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and type 555 in the comments. Share this with the one person who needs this message the most. Tonight, the super full moon reaches its peak and its power is at the highest point. This moment is not ordinary. It shines a clear light on what has been hidden, bringing the truth out where it can no longer be ignored. Things that were left undone are now finishing. The waiting is over. Doors that were closed are starting to open. Tonight's full moon makes change happen, and nothing can stay the same. Rahu and Ketu make this night even more powerful. Their shadow pull twists events in sudden, dramatic ways. One chapter may close without warning, while another begins faster than you expect. It feels as if fate itself has stepped forward, drawing a clear line between what is over and what is ready to rise. This is not a small shift. It is a turning point. Right now, the super full moon is opening a doorway of change. October 8th is not an ordinary date. It is a turning point where past lessons are closing and new paths are beginning. What is happening now is part of a bigger plan that started long before this lifetime. Old agreements of the soul are ending. Connections that were meant only to teach are reaching their finish. Heavy ties are being released. At the same time, new agreements are being activated. These bring people, chances, and directions that carry a higher purpose. They are not random. They are linked to the mission your soul came here to live. This turning point was always meant to happen. The waiting is over and the push forward cannot be stopped. Who you were yesterday is not the same as who rises today. The struggles and lessons of the past shaped you, but now a stronger and wiser version of you is stepping ahead. This is not happening only for one person. Across the world, many are being moved at the same time. Doors are closing quickly and new ones are opening with equal speed. Old ways lose power and a new wave begins to grow. That is why life feels charged, like everything is shifting at once. If you are hearing this, it is not by chance. You were meant to. Your soul chose to be here now, ready for this moment of change. Tonight is not only about endings. It is about stepping into the next chapter of your purpose, the one that has been waiting for you all along. This full moon event carries an intensity that moves through the heart before it reaches anywhere else. For many, emotions have been rising without clear reason. Tears may come quickly, anger may surface, or sudden laughter may break through. These shifts are not random outbursts. They are signs that the body and soul are clearing out what can no longer be carried forward. When the emotions seem too heavy, it is because release is happening faster than the mind can explain. Flashes of the past may return in sharp detail. Situations you thought were long gone may rise again in thought, not to punish you, but to close the story completely. These replays are reminders of how far you've come and invitations to let go of what no longer belongs. The mind may try to hold on, but the spirit is guiding a clean break. The body also joins in this clearing. Many people experience sudden waves of tiredness followed by bursts of energy that make it hard to rest. This shifting rhythm is part of the transformation. The body is adjusting, releasing layers of stored stress while preparing for a new level of alignment. It may feel uneven, but it is not a sign of weakness. It is proof of progress. Heightened awareness is another marker of this transition. Lights seem brighter, sounds sharper, and time itself may appear stretched or compressed. These changes point to an opening within perception, reminding you that reality is not as fixed as it once appeared. What was once background noise is now alive with meaning. Emotional purging during this passage can feel overwhelming, but it is not happening in isolation. Across the world, many are going through the same inner storms, even if each journey looks different from the outside. The full moon does not select a few. It awakens all who are ready to take the next step. October 8th anchors this as more than an ordinary turning point. It marks a release of what the collective has carried for far too long. Those tears, those moments of frustration, even the sudden waves of joy are part of the cleansing. You are not breaking down. You are being prepared for a higher path where clarity replaces confusion and purpose grows stronger than doubt. Through it all, remember that no one walks this alone. What rises within you is rising for many others too. These changes are evidence of growth, of a soul stepping closer to its chosen path. Every outburst, every wave of emotion, Every shift in perception is the body and spirit working together to guide you into the future you were always meant to meet. Today, the inner world asks for honesty that cannot be delayed any longer. The light of the moon makes what is usually hidden come forward, pressing fears to the surface and making silence impossible. On 8th of October, this turning point shows where karmic ties have been holding life in pause, waiting for the moment when truth must be faced. What was once avoided now arrives like a mirror showing edges of the self that still ache for release. Many describe this as the time when the shadow side awakens not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It is the part of the self that stores all the fears, doubts, and unspoken emotions that were pushed away in the past. Ancient wisdom across many traditions teaches that facing this side is an act of courage, for only by naming what lives in the hidden places can transformation truly begin. The moonlight makes it harder to keep pretending, and instead it asks for honesty, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. These karmic threads often appear through repeating life lessons, arguments that resurface, emotions that rise too quickly, or fears that return in moments of quiet. They are not punishments but reminders of what still needs to be released. To face them is to untangle the knot, to end the circle that has carried for too long. The intensity of this moment is not meant to harm, but to push forward into deeper growth. Release can look like admitting what no longer belongs, forgiving what has weighed too heavily, or finally giving voice to emotions that were silenced. Ancient seers described this process as alchemy, the turning of heaviness into wisdom, of fear into understanding. It is the transformation of darkness into strength. The invitation of this time is not to run but to stand in truth. In facing the inner shadows, power is reclaimed. By doing this, the soul steps closer to freedom, ready for the next chapter that waits beyond these karmic endings. A season of awakening moves through the collective like a tide that cannot be ignored. Doors that once stayed closed are swinging wide, and the inner compass is no longer pointing to the past, but toward the horizon of what is waiting. The soul knows when a turning point has come, and this moment carries that exact charge. It is not soft. It is not hidden. Change insists on being seen, and it arrives with a clarity that reshapes how life is lived. As this awakening deepens, the body and spirit begin to realign in ways that feel undeniable. Old attachments lose their weight, and even familiar fears start to loosen their grip. The soul is being tuned, like an instrument that must match the new song that is rising. What once felt comfortable may now feel too small, as if the skin of the past can no longer contain the growth that is taking place. This is the call of expansion, of stepping into a wider version of self. Ancient traditions often spoke of this stage as the fire of initiation, not destruction, but transformation. It is the point where the hidden power within begins to wake, asking to be honored and expressed. Every part of the being, heart, mind, and spirit, feels the pull to rise into a different rhythm, one that carries more truth and more courage. This is the essence of awakening, the awareness that life is no longer about survival, but about stepping into a mission far greater than the self. Momentum gathers here, not as a rush but a steady acceleration. The soul is recalibrating, setting itself to match a higher current of wisdom. This is not about leaving the past behind with anger, but about carrying its lessons forward with strength. The spiritual awakening unfolding now invites trust. Trust in timing, trust in the body's signals, and trust in the deep intelligence of the universe that knows exactly when each soul is ready to rise. To awaken in this way is to remember that life was never meant to stay small. It is an initiation into a more expansive vision, one where every step forward is guided by inner truth rather than fear. The call is clear. Embrace the awakening, let it carve a new path, and walk into the future as the truest version of self. Tonight the sky does not simply shine. It instructs. The atmosphere hums with a message larger than any single life, pulling together individual awakenings into a tide of transformation. Each soul that rises into awareness is not isolated, but joined to countless others moving in rhythm, carrying a revolution of consciousness that is no longer invisible. Those who once thought their inner changes were private are discovering the truth. They are part of a vast design. A single breakthrough in one person sparks echoes in another, as though unseen threads tie us together in this grand weave of awakening. Every release, every moment of clarity expands the field for others. That is why the world feels charged right now, as if a hidden orchestra has begun to play, and no one can remain untouched by the sound. October 8th marks more than a celestial event. It is a mirror to what is happening within the collective soul. Old agreements and karmic debts that weighed down generations are loosening. The momentum that began quietly has surged forward, and now the landscape of spirit is reshaping. What once held power through fear is losing grip, while what rises from compassion, vision, and truth grows stronger. The revolution of spirit is not loud in its beginnings. It is steady, undeniable, and woven into the daily lives of those who dare to awaken. Planetary ascension is not some far-off idea. It is happening through the lived experiences of countless individuals confronting their shadows, embracing their power, and embodying wisdom that refuses to be forgotten. It shows itself in small choices: the courage to speak with integrity, the act of breaking harmful cycles, the opening of hearts that once stayed closed. Each of these seemingly personal acts feeds into a field that belongs to everyone. What is changing is not simply lifestyle, but the foundation of human consciousness itself. A revolution is underway, one not bound by politics or institutions, but sparked from within the human spirit. The more people awaken, the stronger the collective grid of awareness becomes. As if a great map of light is being traced across the world, this invisible network is alive, pulsing with intent, shifting timelines toward greater harmony. Those who have been walking their inner path are not just transforming themselves, they are anchoring the frequency that millions more will rise into. There is no coincidence in who is hearing these words. The soul chose to be present in this exact turning point, to be a participant rather than a spectator. Each step forward is not for the self alone, but for countless others who will walk the paths carved open today. This is the nature of ascension. It is not solitary but collective, carried in waves of shared evolution. The signs of this shift are everywhere. Old systems are cracking because they cannot carry the weight of awakened consciousness. Communities are forming in unexpected places, built on shared vision rather than convenience. The heart is no longer satisfied with shallow exchanges. It longs for meaning, for depth, for truth that resonates. Even those who never spoke of spirit are beginning to search for answers, pulled by a knowing that the old ways cannot continue. This awakening does not erase challenge. It amplifies courage. Each confrontation with fear is an act of service to the whole, because overcoming it dissolves that fear in the shared field. Every breakthrough creates room for others to rise. The pain of growth becomes collective medicine. The triumph of courage becomes collective strength. Ancient wisdom spoke of such times as moments when the veil between ordinary life and higher awareness grows thin. But this is not about myths or prophecies. It is about lived experience here and now. A person who stands up in truth today inspires another tomorrow, until a chain reaction spreads far beyond what one individual could have imagined. This is how planetary ascension unfolds through ordinary people embodying extraordinary consciousness. To witness the world at this stage is to recognize that humanity is not moving toward destruction, but toward remembrance of its own divine power. A consciousness once dimmed is glowing brighter, and the more it grows, the more unstoppable it becomes. This revolution of spirit is not waiting for permission. It is already underway, carried by every person willing to embody truth, courage, and vision. What rises next will not be defined by fear but by authenticity. This is the gift of the collective shift. It reshapes not only personal destinies but the destiny of the entire human story. Each awakened soul is a lighthouse, and together they illuminate a path no force can erase. Change is no longer whispered. It has become undeniable. The collective field hums with transformation, not in abstract terms but in the choices, voices, and actions of people everywhere. What once lived in the background of awareness has surged forward, demanding recognition. This is the essence of planetary ascension. Not a single event, but an unbroken wave of awakening spreading through every layer of consciousness. October 8th shines like a marker, a reminder that the timelines shifting now are larger than individual lives. A door has been opened, one that cannot be closed. Those stepping through it are not only claiming their personal evolution, but also anchoring light for countless others. This is how the revolution of consciousness takes root, through individuals who choose truth. Knowing their courage is multiplied through the collective field. The soul understands this moment as a kind of initiation. Each confrontation with fear, each embrace of inner truth is not isolated. It is woven into a shared grid of transformation that stretches across continents. One person's release of limitation loosens it for the next. One person's clarity sharpens the vision of many. It is a chain reaction, subtle in appearance but mighty in its outcome. What is being born now is not a new ideology but a new way of existing. Instead of being driven by fear or separation, the collective is learning to pulse with unity and purpose. Those who awaken discover that their lives carry ripple effects far beyond what they see. A choice to forgive, to stand in truth, to embody compassion. It reverberates outward, transforming not only close circles but also strangers who may never know the origin of the wave that lifted them. Planetary ascension is not about escaping the world, but about transforming it from within. The old structures cannot survive because their foundations no longer match the consciousness rising through humanity. They weaken not because of collapse but because higher awareness outgrows them. What replaces them is not imposed by power but seeded by spirit. It begins in vision, in courage, in a willingness to live differently. This is why the journey of awakening feels both personal and collective. It is intimate, lived inside every heart, yet its impact spills outward, touching timelines and shaping futures. It is not about waiting for leaders to act. It is about realizing that the true leadership is carried in the awakening of countless souls who no longer agree to live small. The revolution of spirit is decentralized, unstoppable, and alive in the present. The collective shift also reshapes memory itself. Old karmic agreements that once bound generations are dissolving. Ancestral burdens long carried are being released, creating room for new expressions of freedom. Families, communities, and nations are unconsciously participating in this cleansing. What is healed in one life untangles knots that stretch through bloodlines and histories. This is why each step matters. It does not end with one individual but echoes backward and forward across time. The activation of collective consciousness is not uniform. It rises in waves, with some leaping forward while others awaken more gradually. Yet all are included. No one is left outside of this process because the field itself is lifting. Those who awaken sooner are not more chosen, but they serve as anchors for those still finding their way. In this way, each awakening becomes an act of service, no matter how personal it may seem. The importance of this cannot be overstated. To live awake in this moment is to participate in the greatest transformation of consciousness the world has known. Every life touched by this revolution contributes to an invisible tapestry that will shape centuries to come. This is not a passing phase. It is the dawning of a new epoch in which consciousness itself is the foundation of life. October 8th is remembered not simply for a luminous sky, but for the way it reflects what is happening within the human spirit. A collective once fragmented is remembering its wholeness. A species once driven by fear is learning to move through wisdom. The timelines being chosen now are altering the very script of history. The soul knows why it incarnated. Now it came to walk through this very initiation to contribute its voice, its light, its truth to the grand unfolding. Each awakening is proof that the mission is alive and succeeding. Together, these awakenings form a revolution of consciousness that cannot be reversed. Planetary ascension is not a promise for tomorrow. It is the reality of today. The question is not whether it will happen, but how fully each soul will participate. For those who rise, the future is not something to wait for. It is something being created right now with every act of truth, every step of courage, every embodiment of compassion. And so the story continues not as prophecy but as lived truth. The collective shift is here. The revolution of consciousness is underway. Those who stand awake in this moment are the architects of what comes next. And no force, no illusion, no fear can halt the rising of awakened humanity. Transformation calls not for passive waiting but for conscious participation. The energy of this season asks each soul to step with intention, to treat each action as part of a larger weaving. Ancient Hermetic thought teaches that what is within will always mirror what is without. Therefore, this is a time to examine the inner landscape and align it with the outer choices. Life is not separate from spirit. It is the very expression of it. On October 8th, during the full moon event, the call becomes even clearer. Light is thrown across the hidden corners of life, showing where the truth must rise. The Vedic seers once spoke of lunar thresholds as gates of karma, moments when what was unresolved comes forward not to punish but to be honored, completed, and released. To walk through such a gate is to step lighter, to release debts that have weighed down the journey. Action in this season should be deliberate like a ritual, even in the smallest of tasks. Pour water with awareness. Speak words as though each one shapes the future. Move with the recognition that spirit watches closely. The indigenous elders often said that to walk the land is to pray with. The time has come to weave wisdom into daily life, not as heavy rules but as living symbols. In Hermetic philosophy, energy flows where attention is placed. What you repeat with focus strengthens, whether it be resentment or gratitude, fear or courage. Choose carefully what you give life to through your thoughts, words, and actions. Ancient Vic teachers spoke of Dharma as the path carved by truth. To walk in Dharma does not always mean grand achievements. It may be as simple as showing kindness where anger could rule, or choosing patience when the urge to hurry overwhelms. Each small act in alignment with truth carries the power of cosmic law behind it. The universe responds not to appearances but to the frequency of intention. Indigenous traditions remind us that the earth remembers. Every offering, every song, every act of respect toward life is recorded. A bowl of water poured to the soil, a stone held in gratitude, a word of thanks spoken into the wind. These simple gestures are not forgotten. They echo in ways unseen, strengthening the bond between the visible and the invisible. The October 8th full moon event reminds that transformation is not distant. It is present right now within reach. It is not reserved for the chosen few, but moves through anyone willing to step with courage. To honor this passage, choose a ritual of release. Write what is heavy and let it return to nature. Sing a word of liberation into the night or simply breathe forgiveness toward those who linger in memory. Release does not erase the past. It changes the relationship to it. The next stage is vision. After release comes creation. Close your eyes beneath the moon's light or during the quiet of dawn and speak aloud one truth you want to live. Speak it clearly without hiding. Let it echo into the unseen layers of life. This act, though simple, is powerful. Your voice becomes the bridge between spirit and form. What matters now is consistency. One action repeated with devotion builds a field stronger than many words spoken without heart. Plant what you wish to harvest not once but again and again until the roots grow firm. Each step shapes tomorrow's landscape. The spiritual revolution is not waiting to begin. It is already unfolding, and every individual act feeds its expansion. Remember this: the universe does not forget intention. Every honest step carries forward, touching timelines far beyond this one. Live as if each choice is a thread in a larger fabric because it is. Walk forward not with fear, but with trust in the unfolding mystery. This is the integration of prophecy into life, not lofty words but live truth. The path is clear. Release, create, and walk steady. The rest will follow. The closing of tonight's chapter is not quiet. It is charged with meaning, waiting for those who are ready to see it. October 8th marks a full moon event that is not here by chance, but as a turning point. A reminder that the hidden parts of life are stepping into view. What was once delayed cannot hold back any longer. Truth steps forward, and with it comes the opening of paths that were waiting for this exact moment. In these hours, guidance moves closer, almost whispering that this is not the time to hesitate. The blessing is clear: the strength to release what weighs down and the courage to claim what was meant all along. Each step taken now plants seeds for the days ahead, not only for the individual, but for all connected to them. Change is not distant. It is alive and unfolding. Now, as we close, anchor this shift with action. Type in the comments: I step into my true path. Speak it with certainty, for words shape destiny. Share this message with one person you know is in awakening, because they too are being called. And remember, this passage was meant for you at this time. In this exact way, the full moon does not pass without leaving its